Another week, another one of these bad boys. That's right, it's another disaster save. Yay. I'm just playing with you, these are actually a lot of fun. Now let's take a look at what we have for today. We're playing as Oda, who has taken over the shogunate and integrated many of the remaining daimyos, and the first thing that has popped out at me is the fact that, bankruptcy's pretty close. Unfortunately, since 1.33, I can't exactly see the precise amount that we are in debt, but assuming most of these are regular loans, we can tell that the interest rate is going to be roughly 4% of the total we have to pay back. Quick correction by editing Quarbit, that's actually not how that works. It's actually more like a 1/12 of 4% of the total. So clearly the economy is going to be the worst part of all of this. Your techs aren't bad, but you need a little more diplotech since now you're getting unbalanced research, and that's really the main problem with your corruption. As for your ideas, I don't think exploration and quality would be very high on your priority list here. If you wanted to spawn colonialism, I can understand. However, you didn't secure the range necessary to make that possible. And quality as a second group is interesting. Well, we'll fix those at some point. Your estates aren't particularly fond of you, which is probably why your crown land is the way it is and not higher. So let's give supremacy over the crown. We'll also provide enforced unity of faith, and that should be good. You also have some rebel factions which are close to popping, and we don't want to deal with that right now. And your economy could also be performing a little bit better if you went ahead and fully cored these states. After taking a look at all the other issues that are going on here, I think the priority is going to be avoiding bankruptcy or getting a truce with Korea through any means necessary. At this point, if we declare bankruptcy, Korea is almost guaranteed to declare on us, and at that point, even the ships won't save us. Speaking of ships, I feel like you have too many, even if it's not a massive contributor to the problem. So I'm going to decrease the number of galleys you have here. We're also going to set your national focus to diplomatic. I'm going to grab meritocratic recruitment for now because you need money and the advisor cost can be helpful. Eventually, I would recommend swapping that to nobles of the robe to make getting professionalism much easier. And then finally to administrative clergy. And I'm going to have to start coring these so you can at least get some sort of income. I'm also going to sell your titles real quick, which will complete this mission to give us some stability, and this mission to reduce our inflation and increase our tax modifier. For now, we can remain afloat just long enough to fix the issue with the rebels. Actually, just one more thing, we're gonna try and integrate your subject a little bit faster. The quicker we get these extra points, the better. Ming is wringing us dry with this tribute, but unfortunately there's just not much we can do about this, since it seems like the original player was in a war for tribute and lost that war. And yeah, now we get to see exactly how much debt we have. It's kind of a problem. Now we're going to deal with these rebels proactively by forcing them to rise up, and if you're ever curious about which province a separatist faction is going to rise up on, check the development. It'll always be the largest development one, which means this province right here. This information is pretty useful when it's stuff like mountain terrain, since separatists are always the attacker when they rise up, and we'll do the same with Ainu. Now we can't afford any reinforcements or really to maintain the army at all, so we're gonna turn that down. Another important thing to look into when trying to increase your economy is buildings. It looks like the original player built a few when there were definitely more to take advantage of. Now you pay 4% interest on a loan, which means per every 100 ducats you're paying 4 ducats per year. This means that when you take out 100 ducats worth of loan, you're paying basically 0.33 ducats a month for it, and these buildings only cost 100 ducats, so this means that this one province is actually worth building in. The other ones would be profitable, however just not yet. Generally, I don't like taking control over the monetary policy, but at this point, unless we plan to go with bankruptcy and losing to Korea, I don't think we have much of an option. Ah, Ming, you have to be joking. Well, we can't say no, so I guess. Now, we finally annexed our last daimyo, Ochi, which will give us some free states, plus we can change our country to Japan now. Now, most of the time when people play Oda and form Japan, they're usually looking to keep their Oda ideas for various reasons, so I'm going to assume that the player wanted to keep the Oda ideas. Now, an interesting question to ask would be, could I invade Korea? Theoretically. They do make more money than us, so if we can make back more than we spend on the war, I'd say that's probably worth it. On the other hand, we might just get nowhere. But there's no way to be sure unless you try it yourself. Well, here goes nothing. We need to burn this fort quickly, so let's barrage it. Now, it wouldn't do very well for us to take more loans during this war, so let's sell some titles. Alright, let's pray for this 50%. Come on, baby, please. Yeah, let's go. Now, there is another mountain fort we're gonna have to siege, which is also just as dangerous. Okay, it looks like we were able to successfully bait the enemy onto attacking this province by scorching it. Now we'll get the defensive bonus for defending in the hills. And time for round 2. Of course we'll barrage this fort as well. Fortunately, it looks like the Korean AI is not smart enough to figure out that they could definitely beat me on this fort, and instead they're gonna try and siege down that previous one. Fortunately, I have a plan for that as well. Alright, we've taken the next mountain fort. Unfortunately, the problem with Korea is that they have a little bit too much siege ability. Fortunately, if they don't have the opportunity to siege anything, that's not really a problem. There we go. Of course we'll barrage this too. And there it is. Now I'm going to quickly grab as many other occupations as I can, and we'll move the fleet out to bait some of the ships. So from Korea, that's war reps, 720 ducats, and a humiliate. It's not quite enough power projection to get points, but maybe we can solve that later. For now, I'd say that was actually a fairly decent war. It's hard to tell exactly how much you spend on a war, but I don't think we took out any loans, which is good. I sold some crown land to the estates to fund this war, and it looks like it did pretty well. I actually even repaid a loan earlier on, so I think in total I spent maybe in the ballpark of 100 ducats balance. In the end, we definitely made a net positive, plus we're gonna end up getting the war reps from Korea. Now, it looks like Ming's going through a bit of a quick disaster, and I don't think I'm going to have to worry much about them in the future, so we're gonna start refusing some tribute. Alright, it was a tough struggle to get here, but we're finally at positive income. That is, until I get rid of corruption. Interestingly enough, it looks like Jianzhou would accept vassalization, which would conveniently give us a way to expand without having to worry about coring stuff. Well, we can consider the possibility. So as it turns out, I forgot to hit record for the past hour and a half. So let's talk about what happened and what I managed to completely miss. Ming was on the verge of collapse, which as you can see they did, so I took that opportunity using a border up here to declare war on them. I took around 1.7 thousand ducats in the peace deal as well as war reps, and we used that to pay off most of the loans, but not all of them. There are 8 loans left, which is a massive improvement from like the 36 we started with. I also spawned colonialism in the capital, and I'm letting that spread while I take quantity and religious ideas. I decided to swap out of the exploration and quality pair, because I think in the long run, Japan would benefit a lot more from conquering China and converting it, or just turning it into a trade company or whatever, and having the religious CB, than trying to form colonies in the New World. We're also the 8th greatest power, which is cool, and we're back for round 2 with both Ming and Korea. I also created a few tributaries here because they provide a little bit of extra money each year, and we can just get rid of them if we don't want them anymore. Alright, I think that was mainly everything. Alright, we managed to grab one of the mountain sieges in Korea. By the way, I'm just gonna let the original player decide what to do for the rest of the tiers. I would probably go with Royal Decree or General Estates, at least for now, but it's up to them. There we go, that's another one of the events we've been looking for. Gold in Sado. Well, that should be helpful. Alright, there goes the capital of Korea. Well, we've taken pretty much everything we can from Korea, but they're refusing to give up just yet. Well, it should just take a little bit longer. There we go. and Ming was mainly just a cover war, so we'll just take what we can for now. Alright, nice, the second gold event, silver found in Iwami. Now we have 2 gold producing provinces that we can fill with production dev. I'm not so sure about this. Shun isn't exactly someone we plan to be friends with, and I'd rather not raise the army just so we can fight back this little horde here. Let's get rid of them. And this is the last loan. There you are, 0 loans left, starting with, what was it, 36? Something around 6,000 ducats in debt, which is absolutely insane. But now I'd say that your economy has been thoroughly fixed, with a balance of plus 34 ducats a month, total income 62, which is fairly solid. You now have the military strength capable of beating Korea, Ming, Shun, and pretty much anyone else you'll need to. And I'd say the path ahead is fairly straightforward. All you have to do is finish up quantity and religious, embrace the institution once you have enough money for that, take a couple of techs, and after that you can do pretty much whatever you want to. Also, don't forget it's pretty important that you get rid of the control over the monetary policy. It should just take a few months and that should be good to go. I would also recommend at some point, if possible, to remove increased levies, since you're really not going to need it with quantity, and it's gonna cause a couple of problems with your crown land. Maybe you should temporarily swap over to curtail noble privileges just to get that done. Now, first of all, you're going to want to invade and state Korea entirely. I would also recommend the rest of the Far East becoming states. Then you should go after China and ultimately try to steer things towards Beijing. After you pick up all the trade around here, I would recommend pushing into Malacca, making a bunch of trade companies, and try to steer everything except for, of course, Beijing, down into here. I would also recommend picking up trade ideas next, because quantity, trade, and religious together will give you a total of 30% goods produced, which is massive, and in tandem with creating more trade companies out of China and the Indonesia area, you're going to be able to make a lot of money. To get down to Malacca, I would recommend picking up exploration ideas again. I got rid of them early because they weren't too useful early on, but after some time they have a couple of uses. Alright, that's pretty much everything I can think of. I'm afraid this video is going to be a little bit shorter than normal because of all the lost footage, and for that I apologize. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed your time here. I hope there were a couple of useful things that you picked up through this video, and if you want to submit your run for the disaster save campaign, again, look in the description, the instructions are there. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll take a look. For now, this is Quarbit signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day. Big thank yous to the patrons this month, especially Ben Greenhagen, Matthew Cohn, Quiet Guy, Torvald, Bouncer Steve, Sean, Robert Kaleno, Chewy Shoot, and The Watcher. Patrons get early access to videos, so if you want early access, all you have to do is sign up for the Patreon, the link is in the description. And if you're looking for more videos to watch, I recommend these ones on screen.